I had a Finn the Human hat. I still have it. I don't know where it is. I could have wore it instead of this hat. Hello, welcome to the Wild Review on the Wild Review, and welcome to day 15 of 25 Wild Christmas Review Days. We're at the 10-day mark, people. It's 10 days till Christmas. Did you mail in your letter? Ooh, I wouldn't want to be you right now. Well, the last couple of days we've been talking about old school Cartoon Network. Now we're leaving old school and we're hitting the high school. Sure, let's call it that. If you know Cartoon Network, you know the history, but if you don't, in 2010, that kicked off what is referred to as the Renaissance era of Cartoon Network. This is where the network started getting more serious with its cartoons, and they started airing new, creative, entertaining, funny, and really interesting ideas on the network. You had shows like Adventure Time, and Regular Show, and Gumball, and Uncle Grandpa, and Steven Universe, and Clarence. And then, you know, somewhere in the middle, Teen Titans Go aired, but, you know. No. Of course, you had other shows in the mix there, shows that didn't exactly kick off as huge as the other cartoons, like Problem Solvers aired around that time, and the Annoying Orange TV show, Mad. I think Johnny Test was on around that time also, but Johnny Test wasn't an original show from Cartoon Network. That's a Canadian show. It just aired on Cartoon Network. I think everybody knows the Renaissance era of this network by now, and it went on for a good couple of years. It only recently stopped because all those shows have ended. Gumball is the only one that still airs, although they are replaying Adventure Time and Regular Show more. It's really after the 30th anniversary of the network where they started to replay some old Cartoon Network shows and bring back some classics, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why Checkered Past exists today. But anyway, I'm talking about this because we're going to talk about some shows from that particular time on Cartoon Network before we get out of Cartoon Network land and make our way to Disney World. We're not going to talk about a lot of them. I'm only going to talk about 3 particular ones, starting off with Adventure Time. Adventure Time was a cartoon that aired on Cartoon Network from 2010 to 2018. The show takes place in the land of Ooo, populated by animals, candy people, and monsters. A young boy named Finn and his magical, stretching, talking dog named Jake spend their days adventuring and saving the people of Ooo from danger. In 2011, Holly Jolly Secrets Part 1 and 2 aired and saw Finn and Jake finding a suitcase filled with videos made by the Ice King. Together they watch the videos as they believe they contain evil secrets they can use to their advantage, but instead they watch a series of diary entries, all while the Ice King attempts to make his way into their home to watch the tapes with them. One of the earliest Wild Review episodes I did back when I first started the Wild Review was a review of all the Cartoon Network shows at the time, which at that point was 2015, which consisted of mainly the shows that I had just mentioned, the shows that kicked off the renaissance of Cartoon Network, with the exception of Teen Titans Go. I purposely talked about that in a separate episode. So I had talked about Adventure Time and Regular Show and all those shows separately. It's been a few years since I've shared my thoughts, and honestly there's not a lot that I have to say about it because, well, I've kind of kept the same opinion on Adventure Time personally. I think it's a great show. It is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. It's a very creative and interesting show. I'll admit somewhere towards the end of the series it did lose me a little bit, and I don't want to say that's just because of the stories they were telling. I actually want to argue it's just because they really weren't airing the show. I don't know why networks do this. Sometimes networks will just air a show and they won't announce it. It will get very little promotion. You won't know that it's on. And sadly, I think Adventure Time fell into that. There was a period where it was being advertised everywhere, and then once we got into season 8 and 9, it's like, unless you were a special episode like Stakes or Elements, I don't recall seeing promotions for new episodes of shows. In fact, there was one time, this was towards the end of the show's run, I discovered that there was a new episode of Adventure Time airing the night I discovered it, literally within an hour from its airing. I know Adventure Time is not the only show that had that happen to it. I know I talked about that when we discussed Chowder, and that has also happened with a few Nickelodeon shows. In fact, it happens when you go on Nicktoons. But yeah, I kind of lost touch with Adventure Time towards the end there. Got a little confused also, but nevertheless, I still really enjoyed the show. The holiday special is a really interesting one. It's a Christmas episode, but it's not a Christmas episode. And I like that. Holly Jolly Secrets, we're going to talk about it as one whole episode. We're not going to break it up into two parts like the episodes are, really. But the special as a whole, it is one of my favorite Christmas specials of all time, and I think it's just because of how it is. Nothing about it says Christmas whatsoever. In fact, I want to say that they reinvent Christmas, but not in the traditional way. You know, oddly enough, it is like the Chowder and Flapjack holiday special, where you know that it's Christmas, but they're not naming it by name. And with Adventure Time, this just felt like a really interesting holiday special. We did more learning than having holiday feels, if that makes sense. This is the episode that's actually very crucial to the show, and this goes back to what I was saying a few days ago. I think mainly when I was talking about the Nicktoons Christmas episodes. I may have even talked about it when talking about Cartoon Network, but usually Christmas episodes, they don't really play a huge role in the show. Only a few times in television has a Christmas episode played a huge role in a show, and this is one of those shows because we learn a lot about Ice King. Even though it was a very small scene, this is the first time in the show where we get a little backstory of this character. It kind of felt like the Origins of Denzel Crocker episode, except it didn't have a huge amount of context to what happened before we were really introduced to this character, and you just replace it with a bunch of nonsense, because that's really all this episode is. It's filled with a bunch of comedic nonsense on Ice King's part. It's just Finn and Jake watching Ice King videos. That's really all it is. But it's very funny. It is entertaining to watch, and it just comes from the dialogue, the way these characters interact with each other. It's very enjoyable. Part 1 mainly focuses on Finn and Jake with a little Ice King, but I feel like in Part 2 it focuses a little bit of both Finn and Jake and Ice King. Ice King has a bigger role to play in this. And it's not really until the second part where holiday on-the-nose things start to pop up, like the reference to Rudolph and especially the ending. I cut you this pine tree. Oh, look at that. We're being so silly. We're wearing funny outfits. It's snowing. This is great. Yeah, like, again, they kind of accidentally reinvent Christmas, but not in the most traditional way. If you don't know Adventure Time, I guess I should have started it off with this also. Adventure Time takes place in a post-apocalyptic world, which is why Finn is, at least at this point in the show, the only human in this land. That's also why the candy people are alive. So the Earth is not how it used to be. So very likely these people don't know what Christmas is. But I don't know, there's just something very interesting about Holly Jolly Secrets that I like. And I don't know if I'd ever be able to really explain it. I guess it's just the way that it looks. The fact that it is not filled with festive Christmas stuff, but has a lot of on-the-nose things, like, that oddly enough is fine. That's the best way I can put it. It's just fine. It works for a show like Adventure Time. In the setting that it's in, it works. And it's not even that they don't acknowledge that it is supposed to be the Christmas special, because there's 2 points within both of these parts where they clearly state it's the Christmas episode through text. There's one title card that pops up saying that what we are watching is an Adventure Time Christmas, and then in the second part we get this weird little bumper that pops up saying that we are currently watching an Adventure Time Christmas. And it's just so fascinating, because there's really nothing Christmas about this. But it does feel like a Christmas special, oddly enough. While at the same time, it doesn't. It's a very weird special to explain, but that's really all it's about. It's just about the Ice King. Watching videos about the Ice King, and we learned something. For that, that's good enough for me, and I enjoy watching it. I think it was very festive in its own way, and yeah, I'll probably never be able to fully explain the episode in the form of it being a holiday special, but I don't know if anybody else has. So we'll just leave it at that. And with that, that brings us to the end of day 15. We've made it to day 15, everybody. Woohoo! We're now going to leave the land of Ooo, and we're going to make our way over to a park as we touch upon another Cartoon Network Renaissance show that I would like to talk about because they have a good amount of festive funnies for us to watch. One of them's okay. Not necessarily funny, it's just okay. Come back tomorrow and hear me talk about that. Thanks for watching The Wild Review. I'm The Wild Reviewer, and you just saw me review a thing. That was a weird way I pointed.